Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Southern Gal True Crime. If this is your first time here, thanks for dropping in and hanging out with me for a little bit. It is Friday. I hope everybody had a good week. Um, so on Fridays, I have my case of the week, and today I'm going to be talking about the case of Brenda Crockett, and this is a cold case from 1971. Now, originally started out as just one case. I think I found this, excuse me, Brenda's case on uncover.com, and I will put a link to it in the description box as always. Sorry, I'm trying to multitask here. But as I found the, like I said, I found the case originally on uncover.com. And then reading through the information on uncover.com, I came across more information, and this turned into something bigger than I had anticipated. And it was I'm sure you saw the thumbnail, the freeway phantom. Sorry, I can't talk tonight. It's very late as usual when I do these videos. And this was the freeway phantom. I had never really heard of this possible serial offender before. So, of course, I did more research and looked into it, and I found all these other cases that this possible serial offender was linked to. And I was reading through all their stories, and it took a hold of me, and I just felt it was important not only to share Brenda's story and her case, but the other 5 victims that are possibly linked to this serial offender who has still, as of 2023, he has not been identified. So I'll bring you Brenda's case, the 5 possible other victims, and some information about this so-called freeway phantom. But first, as always, if I can get my slides going, we have yes, it worked. I usually have trouble with my slides. Our featured missing person of the night. And this information comes from, I found this on the Morgan Nick Foundation Facebook page, and I will put a link to it in the description box. Andre Williams Jr. He went missing from Sherwood, Arkansas on October 15th. So just about, see, I don't even know what day it is today as I'm recording this, about 2.5 weeks ago. He's a 16-year-old black male, 5'9", 140 pounds, with black hair, brown eyes, and he went missing from Sherwood, Arkansas. And he was last seen at his home. And a note that they put on the post was that he actually went missing from his home in the middle of the night. His family, of course, is extremely worried, and they're asking for the public's help to find this young man. So they ask that if you see Andre, please tell him that he is loved and he is missed, and encourage him to return home. And that's just about all the information that they added in the note. So I'm assuming that he may be a runaway, considered a runaway, and may have had some problems. So if anybody's in this area, in the Arkansas area, Sherwood is in Little Rock, North Little Rock. So if you have seen Andre or have any information about him, please contact the Sherwood Police Department at 501-835-1425. And even if you're not in this area, please, I implore you, share this information. You can find, like I said, you can find the link in the description box, and I will try to remember. I'm going to start putting it in the comment section and pin it to the top. That might make it a little bit easier to find, so you don't have to go into the description to find it. But like, share, comment, anything like that will help get this information out to as many people as possible, as quickly as possible, and that's what we want here. is to get this information out. All right, with that important information taken care of, we will get to our case, or cases as it is. So Brenda Crockett, was she a victim of the freeway phantom? And like I said, first I will give you Brenda's case. Then I'll give you the information about the freeway phantom, and then the information about the 5 other possible victims of this freeway phantom. All right, so this is Brenda Crockett. She was only 10 years old. She went missing on July 27th, 1971, and her body was found the next day on July 28th. She was an African American female, and I believe all 5 victims were African American. So we'll get to the timeline, or a little bit about. There wasn't a whole lot of information that I found, because I always try to bring either like interviews, statements from the family, or a little bit about the victim, because the victim obviously is the most important part of any of these missing persons and unsolved cold cases, along with the victim or the family members of the victim. I can't talk tonight. The family members of the victims. So she was 10 years old. It says she had lots of friends. She loved taking pictures. She went to church. She was a sister, a daughter, a friend. Just sounds like she was just an all-around good young lady. And unfortunately, she got met up with, or not met up with, but encountered a bad person, and her young life was ended. And I say this in all my videos. If anybody here that watched my other videos, all cases that I share touch me, but cases that involve children and the elderly senior citizens, they just touch me just a little bit more, and I get a little bit more emotional about them. But so the timeline of Brenda's disappearance. So on July 27th in the early evening, Brenda's mother had sent her out to a local grocery store to pick up some groceries. She was going to pick up some dog food, some bread, just basic items. Now it says local kids were setting up for a movie night. Now I was a child. Well, no, I was a baby in 1971. But I was growing up, or a child in the 80s. And when I saw movie night, what we consider movie night when I was, 8, 9, 10 years old, a group of kids would get together at one of the houses. Of course, there was always a parent, chaperone there. Put a movie on, watch the movie. Of course, most of the time we spent, instead of watching the movie, we'd, be laughing and visiting and just having fun with our friends. But, that was the whole point of it. But anyway, so that's what I envisioned when they said that the kids were setting up for a movie night. So they were setting up for a movie night, and apparently Brenda's mother had thought that she had taken one of her friends with her when she was going to pick up these groceries. But apparently she was alone. And when I was thinking about this, about whether it would have been better or worse if there had been a friend with her, it's kind of a double-edged sword. Perhaps on one side, if there would have been 2 children together, this offender might not have thought he would have been able to handle 2, or be able to abduct 2 children at one time, and both of them would have been safe. But on the other hand, depending on, and of course, like I said, as of 2023, this freeway phantom has still not been identified. But it also could have been on the other side of the coin. He might have had no qualms about abducting 2 children at one time. So then we would have had 2 little girls at one time that would have been abducted and ultimately harmed. So it's tough to think about. You just never know what might have been. All right. So this is the really weird, creepy part. So around 9:20, Brenda actually called her home 3 different times. Um, so that the exact time is unknown, but in some of the newspaper articles, it said it was around 9:20, 9:30 when when the calls came in. So her younger sister answered the first call, and when she answered, Brenda told her that a white man had snatched her, taken her, and taken her somewhere in Virginia, and that she was being sent home in a taxi. Well, first of all, that makes absolutely no sense. Why would uh, a stranger snatch a child and then take her to Virginia and then send her back in a taxi? So, but we'll get into this. Will make a little bit more sense when we get into the information about this freeway phantom. And her sister said that she was crying, that Brenda was crying when she was talking on the phone. So then the second phone call was answered by Brenda's stepfather. Brenda asked him, and this is another strange thing. When her stepfather answered the second call, she asked him, "Did my mother see me?" And then I didn't include it in this, I don't think. But in the article I read, her father, she said, "Did my mother see me?" And he said, "Well, if you're in Virginia, how would your mother see you?" So authorities and experts think that the offender made Brenda make these calls, and that he told her specifically to ask, "Did my mother see me?" because he might have been afraid that her mother or somebody had seen him around her when he abducted her. That's just one of the theories they have. Um, so hence that's why he told her to ask that question, just to maybe get a feel of maybe if somebody had seen him or not. She also said, told her stepfather that she was alone in a house with this unidentified white male. At that point, Brenda's stepfather told Brenda to put this unidentified male on the phone. He said he heard heavy footsteps, and then Brenda said, "I'll see you," and then she hung up. So that's just a very very strange. To me, this is mind games that this offender was playing, and authorities also believe this too, because, like I said, when we get to the other cases, there were some other strange things that this alleged offender, did that were playing games. So the next day, at almost 6 o'clock in the morning, Brenda's body was found. And in the picture here on the top is an actual picture of where they found Brenda. She was found along the grassy shoulder along US Route 50, which is in Prince George's County, Maryland. And if you can see that little arrow just right above there, that is the sheet that is covering Brenda. She had been strangled with a scarf, which was still wrapped around her neck when they found her. She had been essayed. Pay attention to this. Her shoes were missing, and her feet were clean as if they had just been washed. So keep that in mind when we get to these other cases. And her body was discovered by a motorist. And I think in one article I read, it said it was a motorist, or this information that came from uncover.com said a motorist, but another article I read said it was a hitchhiker. But regardless of who it was, they found her body the next day. So at least the family didn't have a, days, weeks, months, even in, an hour is too long when your child is missing, but at least they did find her in a very short amount of time. All right. So this is when I got into not really went down the rabbit hole, but, included in this information from uncover.com was the question, was Brenda a victim of the freeway fandom? So I immediately said, who is the freeway fandom? Because I had never heard of this alleged offender. But apparently between April of 1971 and September of 1972, 6 young black girls were abducted and their lives were taken. And I believe this, and you can see their pictures of that there on the left. And I believe they're listed in chronological order. The first was Carol Spinks. She was just 13. She was abducted on April 15th. Darlenia Johnson was 16. She disappeared on July 8th. And this is all in 1971. And then, of course, we have Brenda, who was 10. She was abducted on July 27th. Then we had, and I hope I don't butcher this name, Nina Moshia Yates. She was 12. She went missing on October 1st. We had Brenda Woodard. She was 18. She was the oldest. She was abducted on November 15th. And then the last known possible victim that they have linked to the freeway fandom was Diane Denise Williams. She was 17, and she was abducted on September 5th of 1972. So the obvious similarities are they were all African American, around the same age, from 10 years old to 18. And like I said, when we're fixing to take a look at these other 5 little girls that were abducted, and there are going to be even more similarities. So you'll understand why they have linked these 6 victims to this freeway fandom. So some of the similarities, each victim had left their home to run an errand and never returned. Their remains were found near the I-295 freeway or in that general area. Each victim had been SA'd. They had all been strangled. And all the victims except Brenda Woodard were found barefoot. And now it said in Brenda's case, her feet had been washed. I don't think it said anything like that about the other 5 or the other 4 it just said their shoes were missing, but it could be that their feet had been washed too, and I just didn't find an article that included that fact. On the diagram here, it just shows the where the victims lived, where they were last seen, and where they were found. So if you're watching this on a bigger screen than I am, you can kind of blow it up and kind of get an idea of the area that they were found in, which was all in close proximity. Okay, so another obviously key clue is on Brenda's Woodard's body. There was a note, and I believe it was actually in her coat pocket. And the picture there on the left is a picture of the actual note. And the note says, quote, "This is tantamount to my insensitivity to people, especially women. I will admit the others when you can catch me, if you can." And it was signed the Freeway Fandom. So, and it is believed that Brenda was forced to write this note herself. It was not written by the offender. But we'll get more into that when I get to her case. So we have the They were all found in the same area, all passed away basically the same way. Missing shoes. Then we have this note. More mind games. In my opinion, because I told you about the 2 or 3 phone calls that the offender made Brenda make to her home after she was abducted. So these occurred from 1971 going into September of 1972, but for some reason in 1976 it says the probe was dropped of the case. I don't know if that means they just completely shelved it. I'm hoping to God that they didn't, but that's what it sounds like. And I will give you some other information that I try not to get. I try to be neutral and in these videos and just I always stick to the facts. But there are some facts in here that have just infuriated me about how this case was handled. But anyway, we'll get to that. So in 1976, they dropped what they call the probe. If I could read this little writing, I would read this article, what it says. But like I said, if you're watching it on a bigger screen, you can read it. So it's dropped. Probably put away in a box up on a shelf and forgotten. And I understand law enforcement have a lot on their plates. So that was 4 years that they had been investigating. They didn't obviously have any leads, or I'm sure they followed up on any leads or tips that they had and investigated. But, anyway, before I get on a tangent, we'll move on. So where does the case stand today? Well, currently the Metropolitan Police Department of Washington, D.C. Is offering a $150,000 reward for anyone who can provide information that leads to an arrest of the freeway phantom, or leads to an arrest in these crimes, which is possibly the freeway phantom. Is the main suspect, but of course, like I said, as of 2023, nobody has any idea who the freeway phantom is. There have been some publicly I cannot talk publicly named suspects, and we'll get into oh, that reminds me, I get my tablet because I'm gonna have to read a little bit from my tablet. Including the Green Vega gang. They were responsible for multiple, I have to be careful, I can't use certain words on YouTube. Responsible for multiple assaults and abductions throughout the Washington Beltway area. Of course, all these 6 cases that we're going to talk about are unsolved. So if you have any information about any of these 6 cases, you can contact the Metropolitan Police Department at 202-727-9099, or you can email unsolved.murder@dc.gov. So that's the basic information. And so this is, I'm going to try to be as neutral and as calm as I can be and professional, although I'm not a professional. I'm just a goofy woman here on YouTube that wants to share these stories. But anyway, so apparently at the time that these crimes happened, the common practice at the MPDC Detective Division, that the files were retained by the detectives that were assigned to the case, which I guess is pretty much maybe standard practice for any case. Like I said, I'm by no means an expert in anything. So if any of you out there that know, please leave a comment. So as a result, the freeway phantom case files were lost, along with all the associated notes. that they had. And all investigators that were assigned as either primary investigators or were on the task force, they have either retired or are deceased. So, with having no evidence, lost files, no files to go on, or any current evidence and information when it happened, no leads produced sufficient evidence for any prosecution. So I don't know if that means that they had, they had suspect or persons of interest, we'll call them. But without the files and the notes, it's unknown, at least as far as I can find. And from what I've read, as far as any detectives that came along later that investigated this cold case, there was evidently not enough, as I say, sufficient evidence for any kind of prosecution, even if they did have somebody that they thought might possibly be the offender. So this says as of September 2018, but it's now 2023. The case is open as a cold case. Now, I don't know. I'm hoping it's still open in 2023. Hope it's not just, like I said, put in a box and put on a shelf somewhere and forgotten, because these little girls deserve justice. Their families deserve justice, and just breaks my heart for them and their families, as always. All right, so we'll take a look of what little bit is known about the Freeway Phantom. Of course, no name, don't know his identity, gender, male gender, unknown occupation, a missed pathology, serial offender, serial SA, an abductor. I don't know if I can say this right on YouTube. I'll just say pedo. And the very last one, I don't even know what that one means. So if anybody can, and I didn't have time to look it up before I started doing this video. So if that very last one that starts with an E down there, if anybody can look it up and see what it means, let me know. Just so you can leave it in the comments. Sorry, the writing is very small. His signature was dumping the victims along the freeway, hence the name. His MO was abduction and SA, manual strangulation, ligature strangulation in one case, and stabbing in just one case. They consider him an organized offender, and they say he could possibly have 6 or more victims. So like I said, they have the 6 that are possibly linked, and there could be more. All right, so, and then of course, the crimes occurred between April 1971 and September of 1972. And this is a profile, and I don't even know I can't remember where this profile came from. I should I put a link to all my sources I use in the description box. But in this particular profile, it says, the offender has been described as a loner, motivated by rage that was focused on overall society. He might have received some kind of psychiatric treatment to help deal with negative emotions, like depression, anger towards women. He could have complained about how society was wronging him, and that's kind of a common factor in some of these offenders. I think everybody's against them. They've been wronged in some way, and they want to get revenge. It says that he possibly could have tried contacting a person of power by some means, and that the person of power presumably refused to listen, which further fueled his anger, which led to his crimes. He also possibly, most likely lived in the Washington area, as he seemed to have knowledge of the region, especially the local stores, because I believe all the victims were either on their way to or on their way back from running errands to local stores in their neighborhood. Um, keep losing my place. After abducting his victims, is assumed to have taken them to some kind of abandoned house or building where he proceeded to assault them multiple times before taking their lives. This says he would probably be masked and not want to show his victims his face. To me, I might question, or not question that, but he ended up harming all of them. So what difference would it make if they saw his face or not? If he was going to take their lives, it wouldn't matter if they saw his face or not. But that's just my opinion. I'm not going to read all this because it's very graphic. Says due to the brutality of the crimes, the police suspected the offender to be a psychopath. Well, duh. Once again, my opinion. With a deep and misogynistic hatred towards women. He may have had military experience due to the skill displayed during the abductions and the lack of evidence at the crime scenes. He presumably had a vehicle to, I think I skipped that part, said he possibly or probably owned a car or truck, which he would have needed to drive the distance between the stores where he took the victims and then wherever he took them to assault them. All right. He may have had military experience. They say he might have served in the Army during the Vietnam War and may have been responsible for crimes such as assault and homicide during that time period. And like I said, take this with a grain of salt because I don't know. I just found this in an article and just included it. If I can find the exact source, sorry, I'll switch positions here a little bit. If I can find the exact source I found it from, I will put a link to it. I try to save when I'm doing this, save all these sources that I use, save them in my browser so I can go back and put the links in. But sometimes I forget to save them. But at any rate, I do the best I can. Okay, so another clue that they had or suspected was that his geographical anchor point was St. Elizabeth's Hospital, which is a mental asylum in Washington, D.C. They say this suggested that the offender was familiar with this facility, and he could possibly have been a patient, a doctor, or a worker who knew the area. And this makes sense because in a lot of where he dumped some of the bodies, it was around the area very close to this hospital, if I remember correctly. Get a drink right quick. Sorry about that. I apologize for drinking on camera. But the more I talk, the more froggy my voice gets. So, all right. So we have some more clues. So it appeared that he kept trophies, and police have expressed their hope that someone might have come across some of these trophies and alerted investigators. But obviously, as of when they were back in the day when they were investigating it, apparently nobody did. It is said that he kept textbooks from one of the girls, curlers. I'm assuming they mean hair curlers from another, and shoelaces from another. Then, of course, all but one of the victims' shoes were missing. So I'm going to go on the assumption that he also kept the shoes somewhere. So Blaine Pardo, who apparently wrote a book about these crimes, said some family member may stumble across these things and say, "Why did he keep this stuff?" And so they're hoping that, like I said, if somebody happens to come across, even how many ever years later, 50 some odd years later, somebody may remember seeing something odd and report it to the authorities. And lastly, the crime spree stopped in 1972, so that leads investigators to believe that he either passed away, was incarcerated, or moved away from the area at the time. Which, sorry, once again, I'm still having back troubles from a fall that I had the other day, so I have to kind of move around a little bit. I don't know. So we got the heat. We finally had to break down and off subject for a minute. Finally had to, down here in Arkansas, it's finally started to get cold, so we had to finally turn some heat on in the house, and that just dries out the air and just makes everything all icky. But anyway, enough of my problems. That's not what you're here for. All right, let's see what we got next. Okay, let me fire up my tablet. So we're going to take a look at some possible suspects that, if I can get my tablet to work. There we go. And I'm not going to give any names because none of these suspects were ever, I don't even know if they were questioned, but they were never charged with anything. So I'm just going to give you just the basic information without names. So the first ones, and this, to me, the first, I'm going to give you three different sets of suspects. And to me, this first one would be, in my opinion, the closest to maybe possibly having something to do with these crimes. And it is, I mentioned earlier, the Green, I'm just going to say the Green Vega Gang. I can't say the R word on YouTube. So among these individuals considered suspects were members of a gang known as the Green Vega R's. Members of this gang were collectively responsible for numerous Washington, D.C. and surrounding Maryland vicinity assaults and abductions that occurred near the Washington Beltway. Logical investigation and intimate knowledge of the MO of the Green Vega gang brought them to the forefront. The Green Vega gang members were individually interviewed by the MPDC, which is a Metropolitan Police Department of Washington, D.C. Homicide detectives at Lorton Prison in Virginia, where the gang members were serving sentences in conjunction with the successful prosecutions of these other abductions that they had committed and they were convicted of. So during these interviews, one of the gang members initially implicated another gang member who he said this other gang member told him that he was involved with these freeway phantom crimes that we're talking about. And it gave information as to one of the cases, one of the crimes. This particular inmate was also serving a sentence at Lorton Prison for the Green Vega convictions. And if you're wondering how they got the name the Green Vega Gang, it was apparently they drove around in a Green Vega car. So hence they called them the Green Vega Gang. The inmate being interviewed stipulated that he would provide the information only if he could remain unidentified, which the investigators agreed on that. He identified the man who gave him the information, the date and location of the crime, and the signature detail, which was not provided to the public, but which was known only to the perpetrator and to detectives. And they said that this signature information was correct. So this comes from Wikipedia, so take it with a grain of salt. I read in a different article that the information that he gave to the authorities, he could have gotten what that had been reported in the news, and he could have gotten it from there. So take with a grain of salt. I'll let you make your own judgment as to whether or not you believe what this inmate had to say. All right. Let's see. I lost some place. The inmate who provided this information said he was not involved in the crime. He provided an alibi which was found to be verifiable. During this period, an election apparently was being held in Maryland, and one of the candidates publicly announced to the press that a break had occurred in the Freeway Phantom investigation, and provided, which this was just ludicrous to me that he would say this, he stated that an inmate at Lorton Prison had given the information. Why would you do that? But once again, we're talking about politicians. That's all I'm going to say about that, because I don't get into politics on my channel. So after the announcement, the inmate who had provided the information declined any further interviews and denied that he had ever provided the information. So I can understand why he would do that, because even being in prison, if you're found to be called a stool pigeon or snitch, you can be offed in prison. So after this stupid politician made this announcement, he retracted. He refused to talk again, this inmate, and he recanted what he had said. So we'll never know if this information he gave could have been true or possibly linked to the Freeway Phantom. So, all right. So next we had there were two ex-cops who had been arrested for the killing of Angela Denise Barnes, who was 14 at the time. And at one point, apparently, she was thought to be a victim of the Freeway Phantom, but authorities later determined that she was not a victim of the Freeway Phantoms, and these two ex-cops were arrested, and I didn't investigate it, research this any further. I don't know if they were ever prosecuted or convicted, but let's hope so, if they were responsible for it. And then the last one, there was a 58-year-old computer technician. He was in March of 1977. He was charged with abducted. I don't know why I have trouble saying abducted. I use that word a lot, of course, in these videos, but anyway. So he was charged with the abduction and assault of a 24-year-old woman inside his Washington, D.C. home. Homicide detective Lloyd Davis questioned this gentleman and learned that he had been charged with homicide on several previous occasions. On December 28th of 1938, when he was 19, he was a 19-year-old student and a member of the science club at Minor Teachers College. He apparently served cyanide-laced whiskey to 5 prostitutes at a brothel, resulting in the death of a 31-year-old Ruth McDonald. On December 30th, only 2 days later, he stabbed another prostitute. Sorry, I lost my place. 26-year-old Elizabeth Johnson at the same location. Upon his arrest, he declared to police that he was a woman hater, and he was placed under mental observation. Well, I hope so. At Washington, D.C.'s Gallinger Hospital. While there, he broke free of his restraints and assaulted 3 orderlies with a chair before being subdued. During his trial, it was revealed that he'd been a police informant, aiding law enforcement in the arrest of prostitutes. In April of 1939, he was found criminally insane and committed to St. Elizabeth's Hospital. So there's another there's a connection to St. Elizabeth's Hospital. Um, so he was released from St. Elizabeth's in April of 1952. He then proceeded to strangle 42-year-old Laura Cook. He was indicted for this crime in 1954, and he was accused of several other assaults of similar circumstances, and he was retried for the 1938 homicide, it having been determined that he was indeed sane upon committing the act. So first they said he was insane, criminally insane, committed him, and then when they released him and then he went on to commit these other crimes, they went back and looked and said, well, yeah, he was sane, so they tried him for that crime. Despite claiming that he intended the cyanide for himself, so this was the 5 prostitutes that he served the cyanide to. He said that he had intended self-harm, but somehow the cyanide ended up in the drinks or whatever of these 5 women. He was convicted of second degree and sentenced to 20 years to life, but this conviction was overturned in 1958. Unknown why it was overturned. After the 1978 assault charge, his home was searched by police in connection with the Freeway Phantom crimes. Court documents, and pay attention to this because this will come up again later. Court documents were found in a desk drawer in which a judge had used the word tantamount, which is an uncommon word, that had appeared in the note dictated by the killer of Brenda Woodward. So if you go back to remember, or to the note that Brenda was forced to write, the word tantamount was used. Tantamount was used in that letter. Furthermore, colleagues at the National Science Foundation, where this gentleman was employed, reported that tantamount was a word that frequently cropped up in his speech, talking about this gentleman that we're talking about. A search warrant was eventually obtained, and investigators dug through his backyard, but no physical evidence was obtained, and he was not charged in connection with the Freeway Phantom crimes. So, and apparently he died at the Federal Correctional Institute in Cumberland, Maryland in 2010 at the age of 91. Of course, when he was contacted or questioned by police, he denied any role in the Freeway Phantom crimes, adding that he, quote, did not have the depravity of mind required to commit any of those crimes. So those are the 3 sets of suspects that they briefly looked into, or maybe not so briefly looked into, but nothing ever came of it, and none of those suspects were ever charged. Sorry, I'm drinking so much tonight. I promise, once again, it's only tea. I didn't add anything to it because I do have to work tomorrow. Can't go to work with a hangover. All right, so now we're going to get into the other 5 possible victims that were linked to the Freeway Phantom. So first we have Carol Denise Spinks. She was 13 years old. She, on the evening of April 25th, 71, her older sister had sent her to buy groceries at a local 7-Eleven, which was only 1/2 mile away from her home. And it says it was just across the border in Maryland. On her way home from the store, she was abducted. Her body was found 6 days later in the afternoon behind St. Elizabeth's Hospital on a grassy embankment next to the northbound lanes of I-295. Examination revealed that she had been physically assaulted and SA'd, strangled. She was dressed but missing her shoes. And it says that she had only been killed a few days previously. So if I remember correctly, and once again, another article that I read, they believe, so they found her body 6 days after she disappeared, and they believe that she was kept alive for 3 days before her life was taken. So that just tore me up when I read that. Just imagine what this little girl went through for these 2 to 3 to 4 days that she was kept alive before her life was taken. I just can't imagine. So that was Carol Denise Spinks, and I'm going to mention, and I didn't even pick up on this. There's a common denominator with these, with I think 4 out of these 6 victims. Aside from the obvious facts we mentioned with the shoes missing, and there's another common denominator between 4. So, like I said, I didn't pick up on it until I read an article that mentioned it, and I was like, okay. So after you watch this video, if you pick up on the common denominator, please leave it in the comments. I want to see if, and I know most of you out there watching are a lot smarter than I am, so you'll probably pick up on it right away. So that was Carol Denise Spinks. That was and I believe these are in chronological order. I think I put them in. Next was Darlenia Denise Johnson. She was 16. She was abducted on July 8th of 71 while she was en route to her summer job at Oxon Hill Recreation Center. Excuse me. One witness reported having seen her in an old black car driven by an African-American male shortly after she was abducted. 11 days later, her body was located only 15 feet from where Carol Spinks' body was found, the first victim, 15 feet apart. So going back to her body being found 11 days later, even though police had been notified of the location of her body nearly a week earlier by an anonymous caller who had details only the offender could have known. So, once again, in my opinion, more mind games. We have the calls that Brenda was forced to make, the letter that was found on Denise Woodard's body, and now we have this anonymous caller who called a week before the body was found and had details that only the offender would know. So whoever the offender is, this Freeway Phantom is big into playing the mind games. So by the time she was found, of course, her body was very badly decomposed. But they could tell that she was dressed, but without her shoes. She didn't have her shoes on. Her body was too far gone to determine the cause of death or if she had been SA'd, but law enforcement were able to find evidence of strangulation. And I'm going to go on the assumption, just from what I've learned through watching professionals who know what they're doing and talking about, the hyoid bone. If the hyoid bone is broken, it's not always the case, but it could be an indication of strangulation. So I'm assuming, just my assumption, that maybe that's what they found that would have led them to believe that she had been strangled. All right, next we have, of course, Brenda Crockett, who we've talked about. July 27th, her mama sent her to the store. She was abducted. 3 phone calls. She called 3 times. Her body was found the next day by the freeway. The only other thing that it says here is that authorities concluded that Crockett likely called her home at the behest of the offender, who fed her inaccurate information in order to put the necessary time to perpetrate the crime and to hamper the investigation, obviously. I think the rest of the information here is what I've already given you. So that was Brenda Faye Crockett. Next, we have Nina Moshia Yates. She was 12 years old. She was walking home at around 7 p.m. from a Safeway store on October 1st of 71 when she was kidnapped, assaulted, and strangled. Now, her body was found within 3 hours of her abduction, so very quickly. It was found just off the shoulder of Pennsylvania Avenue in Prince George's County, Maryland. As in the other cases, her shoes were missing, and unidentified green fibers were found on her clothing. And I believe in maybe 2 of the other victims, they also found these green fibers. A witness had apparently seen her getting into a blue Volkswagen, and they investigated it, but that lead led nowhere. So, I believe, let's see if I can go back. One of the cases before, somebody reported that they had seen one of the victims get into a black automobile of some sort. And then in this case, a witness allegedly saw her get into a blue Volkswagen. So this was 7 o'clock at night. I'm going in October in the East Coast. I'm going to assume that would probably be dark. So it's possible that the other case with the what they call a black vehicle, and then this case a blue Volkswagen, possibly the same car, but in the dark. If it was a dark blue, it could have appeared black. This just my opinion, my theorizing. But as I said, nothing. They investigated the lead about the Volkswagen, and it didn't lead anywhere. So it was after this crime that the Freeway Phantom moniker was first used in a Daily News article describing the crimes. So this was after this crime of Nina Moshia. That's when the Freeway Phantom moniker was used. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm losing my voice. All right. Next, we have Brenda Denise Woodard. Now, Brenda's I'm sorry, I'm moving around so much on camera, but I can't get. It's not easy getting old and hurting. Anyway, Brenda Denise Woodard. So her case, there's a little bit of differences in her case. So after having dinner with a high school classmate on November 15th of 71, Denise, who was 18 years old, she boarded a city bus around 11:30 p.m. to return to her home, which was on Maryland Avenue. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Approximately 6 hours later, a police officer discovered her body, which had been stabbed multiple times. So she was the only one that was stabbed and strangled. And she was also left in a grassy area near Prince George's County Hospital, which was along an access ramp to Route 202 from the Baltimore-Washington Parkway. So there's a lot of different parkways and freeways that are mentioned, but from what I understand, they're all in the same general area. I gotta hurry up. I'm already going an hour here. She was still wearing. Now she still had her shoes on. She was the only one that still had her shoes on. A coat had been placed over her chest, and one of its pockets contained the note from the offender. And that's the note that I showed you earlier. And according to experts and authorities, based on handwriting samples, they surmised that the note, which was written on a paper cut from one of her school notebooks, this note had been dictated to and handwritten by Denise or by Brenda. And they also speculated that given the absence of indications of duress in the writing, apart from evidence of dysgraphia, which I do not know what dysgraphia means, so anyone out there who does, please let me know. They said that this indicated she may have known her kidnapper. So, like I said, these are experts who know what they're doing. So I will take their word for it. So, and this, I believe, is the only one that they mention anything about possibly knowing her kidnapper, which it could be entirely possible. But we just don't know because we still don't know who the Freeway Phantom is. All right, next, I believe this may be the last one. We have Diane Denise Williams. Yes, this is was the Phantom's final victim. She was kidnapped. I'm just gonna say kidnapped because I have trouble saying abducted. Apparently, she was kidnapped on September 5th of '72. She was a 17-year-old Ballou High School senior. She had cooked dinner for her family, and then she went to visit her boyfriend. She was last seen boarding a bus at about 11:20 p.m. near her boyfriend's house. I'm assuming she was on her way home. A few hours later, her body was discovered dumped along I-295, which is where most of these bodies were found, were the I-295. I said this is just south of the district line. Of course, as with the other ones, her shoes were missing, but no sign of SA was found with her. Although traces of semen were found, this was assumed to be from her boyfriend. So apparently, she went to her boyfriend's house, fixed dinner, or visited him, had a little intimate time with him. So that's what they say. That's what they attribute the semen to. So 1971, obviously, DNA testing isn't what it is now. So they probably wouldn't even been able to test it against her boyfriend's sample to make a definitive. I can't use my words tonight. I'm sorry, it's so late. Anyway, they would have not had the capability to make a definitive determination if it was his semen or not. That's what I was trying to say. Took the long way around saying it, but anyway. So, yeah, that was the last one. So you can see why after this, or I'll let you make your own decision, of course, because everybody's opinion is welcome here. There are a lot, in my opinion, obviously a lot of similarities in the cases. All African American, the same age range from 10 to 18. They were dumped. They were all strangled. One was also stabbed. All had their shoes missing except for one. All dumped along a freeway. Just so many similarities, and yet they were, so that's why they attributed all these crimes to this Freeway Phantom, which once again, as of 2023, has still not been identified. I'm going to have to do definitely do some more research into this Freeway Phantom and probably do another follow-up video at some point, if I can find any more information. All the information that I got about the Freeway Phantom, I got from Wikipedia and one other source. I'll put it. I can't think of what it is now, but I think it's like the Criminal Minds Wiki fandom or something. But I've saved them, so I'll put them in the description box so you can read them for yourself. All right, so once again, the most important part of this case is the victims. So we had Carol Spinks, Darlenia Johnson, Brenda Crockett, Nina Moshe Yates, Brenda Woodard, and Diane Williams. So please, we'll keep these beautiful children into me, even though one was 17, one was 18, still children. And then, of course, the other ones were very much younger. These precious, precious girls need to be remembered. We need to keep their names out there so they're never forgotten. When I was searching YouTube and Google, there were a few stories that came up, but they were from years and years ago. So nothing recent that I found had been posted about this case. So that's another reason that I wanted to dive deeper when I found out about these other victims, to bring some new video to get the names and the crime back, try to bring it back in the forefront in my little bitty corner of YouTube, to try to generate some more interest and so they won't be forgotten, and hopefully they're still investigating. But with cold cases, I understand investigators are busy. They have a lot of things on their plate, but hopefully that these three little girls haven't been completely forgotten. So that is part of the main reason I do my channel is so they're never forgotten. Try to keep them out there. All right. All right. So I will leave you with this image of these three precious girls. Please, if you like the video, found it interesting, informative, please like it, share it, comment on it. More likes, comments, and shares it gets, so YouTube pushes it out to more people, and the more people that see it, the better, because that is the purpose, is to get the information out. All right. Get back out of here. Oh, I didn't mean to let me put that back up. There we go. There they are. I'm going to keep their faces up there. All right. So this is Friday, I believe. I don't know. Well, it's not Friday when I'm filming it, but it'll be Friday. Tomorrow is Thursday, but I will be uploading it Friday. So Sunday, I wanted to mention this before I leave. Quickly. Sunday, I'm tentatively planning to do a live stream on Sunday, around noonish Central Time. I'm trying to do. I've done 3 live streams so far. I'm trying to once again, I can't talk. I want to slowly start doing more live streams, because I love interacting with the wonderful people who attend live streams. Sometimes it's only 2 or 3, but hey, if there's just one person there, that is fine with me. And if you can't catch the live stream, you can always watch it on replay. So Sunday, I will be have a big announcement. Make it sound all important. Now I have some information about a series of videos that I'm going to be working on to bring to you about a very, very infamous case in true crime history. It's not going to be bringing any new or information or any groundbreaking breaking news, but is a crime that did happen very close to me. It's about an hour and a half drive time. So I just want to kind of do a series of videos. Of course, I'll give the information about the crime, but I want to break it down into bite-sized chunks, because Uh, and I think I did a teaser, so some of you may know the case that I'm talking about. Lots and lots of information and developments is still going on today. Things to do with it, but I just want to kind of break it down into bite size pieces to digest. Because there are literally hundreds and thousands of videos that just dissect this case up, down, sideways, within an inch of its life. But anyway, and plus, just to give a little bit of a perspective of, like I said, being so close to it, and it happened when I was in my early 20s. So I remember it very well, and just to kind of give a hometown kind of perspective of how things were, the atmosphere and the reactions. Um, anyway, I'm babbling. So, tentatively scheduled for Sunday around noonish, but I will let you know definitely. Because I should have the house to myself around that time on Sunday, so I should be able to do a live stream without getting interrupted. Okay, so with that, I will stop babbling, and so until Sunday, please take care of yourselves. Be careful out there. Take care of each other. That's the most important thing we can do so we can all make it through this life safely. So until Sunday, I will see you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.